found out something very unsettling about Harry. He gambles.
What do you mean he gambles?
He plays craps in the back room of a private club. I mean, you know, yo 11, come on, little Joe. Snake eyes, hard way 8s. That's how it goes. He loses a lot of money.
You had no idea?
No, I didn't.
Welcome to the CrapVegas podcast.
Vegas, here we come.
Vegas!
Here are your hosts, Chris and Josh.
Hello and welcome everyone to episode 10 of the CrapVegas podcast. I am Chris, he is Josh, and Josh, we made it to episode number 10. We're in double digits now.
Woohoo! This is the last episode of our regular point numbers.
Oh shoot! Wow, yeah.
And then we have to
I was really concerned
we have to go
about
crapless.
That. That's a good way to think of it. That will get people on our side very quickly to talk about.
We'll have some
talk
listeners
about
who won't
crapless in the
listen
first
to
minute and a half of a podcast. Oh my!
We're already off the rails.
No, it doesn't take long, does it? Okay, so if you want to get in touch with us, you can shoot us an email at podcast@crapvegas.com. You can reach us on our forums. That's crapvegas.com/boards, BOARDS. See that, Josh? See how I spelled that correctly this time?
You spelled that nice and slowly.
I did. If I went faster, I would have messed it up, I guess. And as always, the easiest way to reach us is always on Twitter. He's at Vegas Duffy. I'm at SmallWhale13. Or we do have the new Twitter handle for the show itself. That's at CrapVegas. So, Josh, I thought we would start like we've been trying to do, touching base on any questions or comments we received on previous episodes. And we did receive a question right after our last episode released from Victoria on Twitter. And she asked if casino credit can be opened jointly for spouses to share a single account. And I know you and I both did a little research on this, trying to make sure we were able to give her a factual answer. And who did you reach out to and what'd you find?
Well, so I reached out. First of all, thanks, Victoria, for the question. And we had a lot of interest in a lot of questions and feedback on our line of credit on episode 9, that whole discussion. So appreciate everybody chiming in and giving their thoughts and asking questions. And so, yeah, as far as this one goes, whether or not spouses you can have joint lines of credit. First thing I did was reached out to the Wynn credit department and, went straight to the source. And they said at Wynn, you do not have the option of having joint lines of credit. So a line of credit is just to the individual. You can, of course, the representative told me you can get your chips at the table from your marker, and you can give them to your spouse or anybody you want to, and they can play with your money. But that line of credit is personal to you. She did say that you can have the same, you can give your chips. Let's say you're at a craps table. And I took out $1,000 marker. I could give $500 to you, Chris, and you and I could play under the same player number. The disadvantage to that is that you are being rated on the average of the two players.
Oh, that's interesting.
So if you were playing, let's say, $100 average bet, and I was playing a $50 average bet, the average between the two of us would be 75. So it would actually be a lower rating. So they don't recommend that people do that. They said the best thing to do is have your own lines of credit, play under your own player numbers, or have one line of credit and give half the money to your other person, but play under your individual player numbers, and then talk to your host at the end, if you have a host, at the end of your trip, to have them combine the play as far as how they comp you, that kind of thing.
That's really interesting, Josh. I never would have thought about that before. I mean, simple, like you would think if A and B are both playing, they would add A plus B and get C, and that's your average. But no, they're taking A plus B and dividing by 2. Since we're, math people now. No, that is really interesting. I wouldn't have thought that.
Me either. And I was really happy that she told me that. I thought that was just a kind of a valuable piece of information that, as you said, you wouldn't think that way. But so anyway, long story short, Wynn does not have joint lines of credit available. They're personal to you, and it makes sense. And we talked a little bit about that on Twitter and responding to people. But I could see situations where things could go wrong if your partner is drawing on your line of credit and the other person doesn't know, or that kind of thing.
Sure, I could definitely see some issues there. And quite frankly, before I did any research or reached out to anyone, my quick thought was, no, there's no way they would allow this to happen. And I did reach out to a former, person at Flamingo where I used to have credit, trying to find out what the Caesars official response is on this one. And she said that they do not allow joint credit at her property. She couldn't speak across the board, but typically with Caesars properties, if they do it at one, they do it at all.
Right.
So I would kind of assume that they don't allow joint credit at any of their facilities. The only thing that popped in my mind, Josh, was potentially MGM, because I know they used to have that big push back in the day where if you were a married couple, you could link your accounts back and forth on the player club side, which makes me think maybe they would tolerate linked credit, but I wasn't able to reach anybody to get any sort of definitive answer from there.
Yeah, that's a good. I wonder if that would be the case, or if that would just be kind of similar to what the person at Wynn said, which is just you can play, multiple people can play under the same player number, but
yeah, maybe
kind of
I don't know. So maybe we need to do a little bit more digging, but at least for now, hopefully that gives you a little insight into the issue. It seems very unlikely across the board. Maybe there are some outliers or specific properties that would permit it, but the general answer is no, that you cannot do that. Okay, so let's jump ahead. We received some feedback via Twitter from a player that took some advice from us on the credit side, and I thought it'd be nice to share it just to give us a little bit of word of what we're getting from players out there. He sent me a DM that said, Chris, first off, thanks for all the great content. Loving the podcast since episode 1, and thanks for the marker explanation and advice. After reading your article, I applied for credit at Park MGM through their website 2 weeks before my trip. When I didn't hear back, I called and was connected to the cage and was told that the cage only approves credit for players arriving in the next day. They directed me to the corporate office, and after a quick call, I was approved for my requested amount. I checked in at the cage on arrival, signed the papers, went to the roulette table and asked for a marker, had my chips within a minute, paid off all my markers before I left Vegas, and all is well. We'll always use markers going forward. Thanks again. Keep it going, Larry in California. So I did want to share that. It's great to hear from somebody that wasn't familiar with credit before, kind of listened to what we had to say, or in this case, read the article that was effectively the same thing as our podcast that we did. And now, he's sold on credit for life. And I think for most players, that would be the case if you went down that road. We just have to stay away from the people that have proclivities that would make it worse for them.
Absolutely. As we said, that's a danger. Thanks for the feedback. Sorry, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you everyone that sent it. There's plenty of more comments and messages that we got about casino credit. Unfortunately, we're just having to pick a couple of them to discuss because we don't have 6 hours for a podcast recording, even though some people have expressed that they'd like us to record for 6 hours. Boy, that would get old really quick. But let's keep moving, Josh. So I thought we'd move on to your Star Trek nerd pew pew con festival, cosplay, whatever you want to call it. I thought we'd start with your trip because it's fresher for one. And boy, do I have a lot of questions, some of which I might ask, some of which I won't. But let's get it kicked off. So you got there last Wednesday, right?
I got there Wednesday evening and stayed, if you remember from previous episodes, stayed at Paris for one night.
Okay.
I had a comp room. I did have to pay a resort fee, but I had a comp room at Paris. Yeah, it was an end of the hallway room.
Oh,
and
fancy.
I tweeted out a picture of my view, and I had a view of the Eiffel Tower and the Bellagio fountains, and it was a fantastic view.
Oh, it was absolutely beautiful. I agree. You had a terrific view from that room.
And I looked out the window for about the first 5 minutes, closed the blinds, and that was the last I saw the
Never
view.
looked again. Same exact thing I do at Wynn. My blinds are open when I arrive. I look to see what I have a view of, and then I close them, turn the lights on, and they will not reopen.
Exactly.
That's too funny. So let me ask first, before you go too far, how was the check-in experience? Because I've seen so many messages recently from people trying to check in at Caesars properties and having 1 or 2 hour waits just to get in, even at Caesars Palace. So what was that like for you?
I saw the same thing, and I was worried because I don't have any, I don't have special status at Caesars anymore. I'm not Diamond or anything like that, so I can't use the Diamond check-in room or whatever you call it, which I have previously. So I was worried about that too. So I made sure to check in online so that I could use the kiosk.
Okay,
and sure enough, that was fine. It worked relatively flawlessly. And it took me maybe 10 minutes or so to check in. A tiny little glitch in the machine, but that was easy. But there was a long line for people waiting to check in. And I found out from some of my friends that were there for the Star Trek convention, and I didn't really know this, if you book through a third party, so if you're not booking directly through Caesars, oftentimes you can't do the online check-in or the kiosk. So you have to wait in line. And just a kind of a word of warning to people, those lines are long. And so if you're booking through a third party app, whether it's, Expedia or whoever, just be aware of that you probably can't do the online or kiosk check-in. At least that's what I learned kind of anecdotally.
Yeah. I mean, I think third-party bookings for hotels in general are a bad idea. Just as a business traveler, I would say that. Those are the first rooms that happen to disappear. So you might not have room when you get there sometimes. And yes, I think Caesars makes a big push even on their website that they guarantee their lowest rate. You get free express check-in in this case, which is what you
Right.
did, and a couple other benefits of booking directly with them. But yeah, no, that's good to know, because I sure as heck, you know me, I'm very impatient. I would not be waiting 2 hours to check in. If that was the case, I would literally leave and go to a different property.
And my room keys that the machine spit out were both, Caesars. They put pictures of whatever, restaurant or things. I had Martha Stewart and the Bedford on my room keys.
That's the big push right now. So that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
And you said the room was really nice, so that's good. Always good.
The room was really nice. I'm not somebody. I mean, Chris, you know this, and you may have picked up on this on the podcast. Of course, we like the nice things about Wynn properties like that, but I'm also not a super critical guest or a hypercritical guest, I guess I should say. And I'm pretty easygoing as far as life goes, and that factors into rooms.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to give a blow by blow breakdown of my room at Paris as far as the where there was dust somewhere or where there was a crack in the sealant or anything. But I sent Chris a picture. One funny thing was when I closed the curtains, closed the blinds in my room at Paris. And I noticed that the top of the blind was still kind of flapping open, or the curtain, I should say, was still flapping open. I look up and there's double-sided tape there that they've put to keep the top of the curtain in place.
You mean that's not what they do at the Wynn? I highly doubt it.
But that was the biggest kind of, that was a minor thing, but I did think it was funny and worth mentioning.
I'm the same way though. I don't care about the rooms and how nice they are appointed, and or the linens 1,000 thread count for 6. If it's got a bed to sleep in, I'm good to go.
Right. I will say, having stayed at properties like Wynn, or now, we'll talk about Aria, a few things that I missed at Paris.
Okay.
That, just little teeny things where, you don't have real glasses in the room. So there's no actual glass, drinking glasses.
Just plastic cheap cups.
Or paper cups. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no dry cleaning bags, which I and probably a million other people use to put your dirty clothes in.
Yes, exactly.
For me, that's what I use as dry cleaning. So no dry cleaning bags at Paris, and also no pen and paper, which I was a little disappointed in, because as we talked about, when I tip housekeeping, I leave a note. For housekeeping. I do the same thing. And I couldn't do that, and I left a tip, and they didn't take it for just that reason, because I couldn't say for housekeeping.
Anyway, that bugs me. It's like 8 cents worth of paper and a cheap pen, for people just to be able to jot down a note or do something like that. If you're not going to leave a pen and paper for that purpose, then you better put an envelope in there that says like housekeeping tip or something.
Right.
Because, that is frustrating. You're literally trying to help these people, and they're not giving you a method for doing so.
And I ran into one of the housekeepers at Aria, and she just as she was finishing cleaning my room when I was going in, and she said, "Thank you for the tip." And I said, "You're welcome." And I said, somehow I brought up the note thing, and she said, "We're not allowed to take them if people don't somehow indicate that it's for us." So
that makes perfect sense.
I'm assuming Caesars has the same policy now, and that was why she couldn't. When I say she, the housekeeper couldn't take my tip, which is too bad, as you said.
No, I could see situations where the only bill I had was a 20, and that seemed okay. I'll leave that for the day for the house cleaner, but they may think, "Oh, a 20, that's too much money for me. I'm not going to take that." So you can't leave it up to their discretion for what they take. If there's $100 bill you accidentally left, are they just going to grab that too? Yeah, so I could see where that could cause issues.
But overall, those are just really minor.
Sure.
And most of that is just the difference that you get between a 5-star resort, if you will, and a 3-star resort, or thereabouts, which I think is kind of Paris is somewhere in the middle. And
sure.
But overall, absolutely fine. And I would happily stay there again. That the room was fine and no significant issues. And it's exactly what kind of I expected.
Okay. Tell me about the gambling floor. That's kind of the key thing for everything. What was it like? What were the craps conditions like? What did you think?
So craps, first of all, they moved the craps tables. If you're familiar with where they used to be by the cage at Paris, they've moved the craps tables around the corner. They've got some stadium craps there now in various places, but they moved them to, in my opinion, a less desirable location on the casino floor.
Okay.
I think most of the ones I saw at Paris were $15 craps tables. I didn't, the only time we played Paris. I met up with our friend Jordan, who's a listener of the show, friend of the show.
I was very jealous that you got to play with him.
And Jordan and I were texting and DMing back and forth, and we arranged to meet. And I think we walked over to Bally's. We couldn't find an open table there, so we went back to Paris. Did find an open table at Paris. I think it was a quarter table, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
Jordan had his Hard Eight for a Nickel Craps Vegas shirt on, which was great.
That's awesome. Way to go, Jordan.
I was in my Star Trek shirt, so
Oh, okay.
of course, yeah.
Not as cool.
No, not nearly as cool as the CrapVegas shirt. But he and I got wiped out.
What a great shared experience. Jordan, you want to know how our lives go daily? This is pretty much it. Yeah.
But he and I had a great time, I think, talking with each other. We chatted with each other about 45 minutes or so after we finished after we lost all our money at the crap table. We just kept talking about, just life and the show and Vegas and that kind of thing. And so, Jordan, it was great to meet you and any other listeners. We're all in town. Hopefully we can get a chance to meet up sometime. But that was I only played craps at Paris for that session with Jordan, which was probably less than a half an hour by the time we, got our butts kicked. So, didn't get much of a feel for dealers. I think it was fine. It didn't stick out to me as particularly memorable. Mm-hmm. There was nothing like that. And that's kind of been my experience at Paris, I have to say. Historically, I don't remember having great experiences on the casino floor there. As opposed to Planet Hollywood. I went over to Planet Hollywood on, I guess it was the first morning I was there. So Thursday morning, wandered over there first thing in the morning because that's where the Starbucks is, and got myself my morning Starbucks. And there was a $10 table at Planet Hollywood, $10 craps table at Planet Hollywood.
That's awesome.
First I sat down, played a little Heidi, and got warmed up. And Chris is like, "Why are you not at the craps table?" I said, "Yeah, sometimes I just like to start it, playing the slot machine for a while." So I played Heidi, and then I went over and played craps. And as we've both said, Chris, the dealers, I think the craps dealers at Planet Hollywood are fantastic, right?
Yep.
I remembered some of them from last time I played there, which has been a few years. Just really nice and friendly. And I think I won a tiny bit. But the dealers were very memorable as opposed to the dealers at Paris. No offense to dealers at Paris, but I didn't have a memorable experience.
That's always been my experience. Planet Hollywood has always been a solid place to play. I love staying there as well. If I'm choosing a Caesars property, I'm going to choose Planet Hollywood every time. I enjoy it a heck of a lot more than Caesars Palace even, or Cromwell, or any of their what they consider, nicer properties for that matter. I just think it's a good mix of everything. They always had a couple good food options. The rooms were great, good views of the fountains from there. Dealers were great. Usually the limits were reasonable. And then, of course, at night, you get their equivalent of the dancing dealers in between as well if you play in the evenings.
The party pits,
so, yeah. I mean, 6 to 5 blackjack and stuff that you don't want to be playing.
Yeah,
but
you don't care that much.
So Planet Hollywood has 4 craps tables, if I remember correctly, from my time there.
I think so, yeah.
How many did Paris have?
Probably about that same number. I didn't actually count. I think it's probably 4. Very different. We'll talk about very different from Aria.
Yes.
But who
has about 750 craps tables.
Yes. As we'll talk about, Aria was rocking for craps.
Yeah.
But no, I think the Paris casino floor has never really been, to me, the highlight of Paris. I like staying at Paris. I like the location. I like the rooms. I think there are some pretty good dining options, especially in the corridor between Paris and Bally's. But the casino floor has never really done a lot for me. I think I would, I'd rather play Bally's than at Paris.
I just always found Paris's gaming floor to be kind of dead.
Yeah.
I used to go over there. The only reason I'd really go to Paris if I wanted to play is they had a face-up double-deck game that was usually $50. That was a really good game, especially if you were a card counter, since they were dealing it face-up, since most double-deck is dealt down. Just makes it a little bit easier, gives you, more to focus on. But that's about the only time I ever wanted to go over there, and I never had a memorable experience with a dealer. I never felt like that vibe of a casino floor. And for better or worse, when you go into Planet Hollywood, there is always a certain vibe going on.
Definitely.
Now, I always feel like I'm too old to be there.
Especially at night.
Like, I used to love Planet Hollywood when I was in my 20s. But now, especially in my late 30s, I feel like I'm not welcome there. It's not as bad as
music.
It's not as bad as Cosmo. Like Cosmo, I feel way too old to be there. Like, I feel like I've aged out of that place. They do not want me anywhere near anymore. But Planet Hollywood, same sort of thing.
Speaking of, Chris, real quick detour. I wandered through Cosmo going, to and from.
Okay.
I walked a few times from Aria to Bally's and went
There's
through
a Starbucks
Cosmo.
in there for you too.
Yes, there is. I didn't go to that one, but
Okay.
they still have plexiglass on the craps tables at
Really?
Cosmo. Yeah. I took a
On
picture
any
of
other
them. I haven't
tables?
sent it to you. I think so. I didn't look that carefully, but yeah, I think I saw them on blackjack tables, the screen between the player and the dealer. Yeah.
That means that it came back.
Oh,
Because
interesting.
I used to be a big Cosmo player there for a while.
Right.
And I remember how mad that everybody was when they first went up. And then I remembered in a future trip when they came down. And everybody was super excited that they were down finally.
I guess they came back then, yeah.
Huh. Wow.
Anyway,
that's
I'll send you
very
a picture.
interesting.
I took a picture of an empty table with the plexiglass on it, but I was surprised just walking through. I didn't play at Cosmo.
I would be surprised too. So let's jump ahead to your arrival at Aria. General impressions upon arrival?
Well, first of all, I want to say Aria was fantastic. First thing I did, I got myself checked in. I got to go to the invited guest line or whatever. And, yeah. to check in, and that was no problem. And I was chit-chatting with the front desk representative about, my first stay here, and usually stay at Wynn. And the person said, "Oh, you can't beat Wynn." And I was like, well, it's nice to
okay. Well, at least you know your place in life.
Off I go, right?
Yeah.
But no, they told me I was in I'll talk about it, but I was in a suite, and when you have a suite, you also get access to the VIP lounge.
Okay.
Which I think you also get if you're platinum or higher at MGM. So, and that was I went in there a few times just to get Diet Cokes and use the bathroom if I was near it on the casino floor, that kind of thing. And VIP lounge is super nice, and I think there's a check-in area there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I got my room, went up to the room, and then had an amazing suite.
Oh, nice.
with a dining room and a little kitchen area and a separate sitting area and 2 bathrooms, and the toilet in the in the bedroom was one of those fancy ones.
Ooh, did it have a lot of buttons that you didn't know what they did?
Yes. Well, I tested them.
I'm not pushing buttons if I don't know what's going to happen. That's too risky for me.
But the most interesting thing about the room, I think we're going to put a video up on our YouTube channel of just a 1-minute video that I took of the room. It's pretty cool. But it's the first room I've ever been in, Chris. Tell me if you've had this, that had three thermostats.
Oh, interesting. Oh, for different rooms?
Yeah. The dining room kitchen had a thermostat, and the living room had a thermostat. I know of one that does at least 2. And you've been there. Resorts World is big on that in their suites. Mm-hmm. Their bedroom has a separate thermostat from the living area. I'm not sure if there was a third one like for the bathroom area or not like that, but I know Resorts World does that too. And the other thing I like that you can't do at Wynn, and I appreciate this, is you can turn the thermostat lower than 65.
Yeah.
Right.
I hate that arbitrary cutoff.
Me too. Because most of the time the room it doesn't get to 65 anyway. So you're trying to get it down as low as you can. So I think I was able to get mine at Aria down to, it said, like 64, 65.
Okay, see, so I want my room to be like 51 degrees. I mean, I want it to be I want ice cubes forming on windows. I want all that stuff. Have you ever actually gone online and look at, like, here's on this thermostat how to get below the lock of 65 degrees?
I haven't looked hardcore, but I've seen there are hacks that you can use.
I've seen it. But I'm always afraid to do it. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, I don't think it's going to, like, break or anything.
You're going to get kicked out of Wynn.
But I feel like, I feel like I'm going to get, like, a note from our host being like, hey, housekeeping said that you broke the thermostat and went below. Can you please not do that anymore? I don't want anything that's going to embarrass me long term, so I don't do that.
Anyway, so I was happy about that. The room had, and one thing I want to say, so this was a suite at Aria, and my understanding is that the suites have been renovated, but the standard rooms may not have been renovated. So my comments are based on what I believe to be a renovated suite. So whether or not that translates into the regular Aria rooms, I don't know, given that this is my first time staying there. But I would say that the bed and linens and pillows and that kind of thing were Wynn quality. Like, I thought the bed was really comfortable. I like the pillows, and I can't remember if I mentioned on the show before, but I've mentioned it.
Oh, you're a pillow snob. We know.
Yeah. Exactly. I usually take my own pillow, and I don't do it when I stay at Wynn, and now I won't have to do it, at least in the suites, at Aria. So just super, super, comfortable room. Lots of USB ports and plugins for everything. Anywhere you could want to plug in, you could plug in. So yeah, those are my overall thoughts on the room. Was wonderful.
Okay, let's back up for a minute. I need to know more about this pillow talk thing. So if you're going to a Vegas property that doesn't have good quality pillows, do you like pack a separate suitcase that just has 2 pillows in it? Because they take up a lot of space, obviously.
No, I have one down pillow, so it's really, really soft.
So it can compress a lot.
Can compress a lot, and I only need one.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you're bringing a full suite of pillows with you.
I'm just bringing one. I have one pillow that I bring with me. I did bring it for this trip. I used it at Paris, and I didn't know about it compresses down pretty small. So it just goes on the top of everything else on my suitcase.
Okay, that's important. I think people are really going to want to know more about this, Josh. So I thought it'd be important that we expanded just a little bit. Okay, gaming floor. The
pillowcase may be satin.
Oh wow, fancy! Jeez, high roller over here, people. Okay, gaming floor. Tell me about it. How many tables are there? What kind of limits were you seeing? What did you think?
I think there's 8 craps tables, which is phenomenal.
And it's a ton.
A lot of our listeners have probably been to Aria, and I had played at Aria before. In fact, Chris and I had played at Aria together before. I always found the casino floor to be a little sterile feeling sometimes. And I've heard some people say that on Twitter too.
Yeah, it's weird though, because the tables, they have very bright and vibrant felts. They have that strong, deep purple.
Right.
The floor's got, that very attractive carpet, and, the ceilings are really tall. So it's got this really airy,
I think it's something
kind
to
of
do
cool
with
vibe to it.
The darkness and the tall that always gave it that feel for me. But now that, I played there pretty regularly this trip, I don't feel that as much anymore. That was kind of an impression that I had that left a little bit. So I think the casino floor is, it feels pretty massive.
It does
to me.
I've got lost there before.
Yeah. And once you get a feel for it, how things fit together and things, I don't think it's that bad. But I liked it. So as I said, 8 craps tables, most of the time limits between 25 and 50 pretty regularly.
Okay.
I saw a couple of 15s in the mornings, different days. I didn't ever see anything lower than 15, but I saw a 15 regular and a 15 crapless. At one time, they almost always had a $25 crapless game going in addition to regular.
Okay.
And then I saw, a couple times they had a $25 crapless game and a $50 crapless game going.
Interesting. So out of the 8 tables, how many were crapless? 2?
2, I believe.
Okay.
I don't know if I went and looked at the felt on all of them, but I know for sure 2 were, and that was about it. There could have been 3 or so, but
okay. Feature bets at the MGM property?
Feature bets. Let's see. What do we have? The all tall small. Except it's not called the all tall small. It's the bigger, smaller, whatever it is.
Yeah,
so you can
the MGM version of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And the reason for that, or one of the differences, obviously they're licensing and all that kind of stuff. But also you can't with an all tall small. You can't use. My understanding is you can't usually replace the tall or small when it hits. But on this boom or bust thing, it might be called or whatever it is, you can.
Yeah, you can on an all tall small. Each property, it depends on how they handle it.
Property specific, right?
Yeah, they have to have the correct lammers to cover it up.
Yeah, they have to
flip them backwards, and that's a different color. Like Wynn uses the fancy gold coin, so I mean they're not going to let you do that there. But most places can flip it over. I always found that version where it has like the 12 numbers in the middle that they have to additionally mark in addition to the small and tall marking. I find it to be like really crowded and it looks messy.
Well, that was
Bellagio does that too.
Yeah.
And I hate the way that they do it, and it sounds like I wouldn't like theirs either. I mean, I'm going to play it. I mean, it's not going to stop me,
right?
But I think it looks a lot messier.
It is, and I was playing. I played it all the time. A couple of funny stories. So I went up to a table one afternoon. Nobody's there, just like I like, and I bought in for whatever it was. Got a marker, did my 270 across, came out points 5, and I'm the only one at the table. Points 5, started hitting numbers. Next thing I know, I make the all tall small without all of it. Made the all tall. We made it all without ever making the point though.
Well, that's
and
good,
I never did. I
didn't
never
want to repeat
make
numbers. You had a purpose and you were on a mission. And you got it done.
And I didn't even. The dealers pointed out to me. They're like, "You haven't made a point yet." And sure enough, I didn't. It was a good start, although it ended up being not a good session. It was a really good thing I hit the all tall small because the rest of it
saved you.
Stunk. Yeah.
That's too funny.
But I hit over that trip. I did hit the all tall small twice.
Okay, that's good.
which was very cool. The other one was, I don't remember it being anything, super exceptional about it, other than I needed like the 8 and the 12, and I made the 8, and the very next roll I made the 12. So
that's awesome.
That was,
yeah. Those 2s and 12s always just, they elude you forever. So when you hit those, you actually feel like you've already made it, even if you haven't. I'll say I do have a couple quick questions, Josh, I wanted to run through with you. So my first one, you had mentioned at some point that the dynamic was really different between playing in the day and playing in the evening there. So, I mean, what did you experience that was so different?
Well, I'll give you a musical example.
Ooh, okay.
In the morning, I'm playing at 7:00 in the morning or whatever. I go up a quick detour. There's a Starbucks on the second level, the promenade level of Aria, that you can.
Do you have Starbucks
order.
stock? Is that why you keep promoting them in this episode?
I have no Starbucks stock.
Okay,
but I just get Starbucks a lot. But you can mobile order. You can't do that at some in Vegas, but you can mobile order on the promenade level. The elevator stops at the promenade level, so I could go get my coffee and then head down to the tables, and it took all of like 5 minutes. Sorry for the detour. So I'm playing craps at 7:00 in the morning. I got my Starbucks, and they're playing Neil Diamond.
Okay, it's kind of, which is
mellow and
kind of old school, kind of slow.
Right.
Yeah.
At Wynn, it would be Sinatra, and it would be.
It's usually Sinatra in the mornings. Yeah.
Right, and in the evenings at Wynn, you might get up to Billy Joel or.
Yes, faster paced, older music.
Right, yes. And at Aria, it's at night, and I don't even know the artist, but at night it's bass and it's loud, and it's like I'm at a different place.
Interesting.
And
so it's like playing at Hollywood or Cosmo all of a sudden.
That's exactly what I was. Yeah, that's exactly the comparison I was going to go with. As I was thinking Planet Hollywood or Cosmo, and so it's very different in the feel. To me, between morning and early afternoon, and as we get to later afternoon and evening, and at Wynn, when the vibe changes for sure. In the evening, you get people dressed up, you get people going to dinners and clubs and that kind of thing. But I don't remember the vibe of the gambling being that different. Whereas at Aria, it was pretty different. Not necessarily bad, but just it was like I was in a different place almost.
Yeah,
so
that was
yeah.
Yeah, I never felt that at Wynn, where playing in the evenings, like all of a sudden it was in a different casino or anything like that. It always still had the same vibe. The players were doing the same sort of things. Yes, people are dressed a lot nicer and fancier clothes, and women have less clothes on, which I'm not complaining about. So that's different. But other than that, the gambling stays pretty much the same. But I don't do well with the, like everything now is going to be the rap music, heavy bass. It becomes more of a party scene than it does gambling. That kind of takes away from why I'm there. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just not for me.
No, I feel the same way.
Wynn's always got that kind of classy vibe to it at all times. Like you always feel like you're doing something on the high end of life when you're playing there, no matter what you're playing. I mean, you could be playing a $5 pie gow table, but you feel like you're living the high life, and that seems to escape that.
Exactly.
Okay, fair enough. What about Heidi's? You had to have some Heidi's fun while you were gone, Josh, right?
Well, yeah. If you follow us on Twitter or follow me on Twitter, you will have seen that. Yes, as you know, I like to play the Heidi slot machine, and I played a fair bit of it this trip. Part of this trip for me, we'll talk a tiny bit maybe about the Star Trek convention, but I was bouncing around a lot between Aria and Bally's, and so it kind of changed my usual rhythm of playing and things. So I ended up playing a more slot than I usually would, I think, because I'd have 20 minutes to kill here, and I didn't want to, go, buy it at a craps table and start over, that kind of thing. So yeah, I played a lot of Heidi's, and I got 2 hand pays on this trip. Yeah.
Was it Heidi's or Heidi's and Hannah's?
That's a good question. These were both Heidi and Hannah. They had regular Heidi, but I only played Heidi and Hannah.
See, Heidi's a little bit of a tease. She doesn't always want to put out as much as Hannah does. So I feel like when you put Hannah into the mix, hand pays just come a lot more frequently.
Yes. So the first one, we won't go too far into slot talk, but the first one was there
goes our listeners.
That's right. We have some slot listeners, so
that's true.
Some that stayed Aria.
Yeah.
I got a 45 spin bonus. I even texted Chris and said, where do you think I'll end up with this? And, over the course of 45 spins, sure enough, it was a hand pay. The second one it was towards the end of my trip. I think I was down on the day, and I was playing at night, which I don't often do. And I was getting kind of punchy, and I'm losing. And I said, and I get the bonus, and it's the spin. You get the wheel where you can trigger the
Yep.
high, you can activate the Heidi progressive or the, what is it?
Or the
Rihanna
accordion
or the
or
accordion
Hans
or the
or any
pretzel.
of those. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I said, please be Heidi. Please be Heidi.
I need this.
I need the money. And sure enough, Heidi hits for $2,000.
Nice.
And which it normally Heidi starts at 1,000. So the progressive part of it had gone up
Yeah.
to 2,000. So that was even better. And then, so that triggered another spin on the wheel. And then I hit the accordion, which
Wow.
was, 150 or something.
It's still
and
really cool.
Yeah. So that it was only a 5-spin bonus. I think I only got another like $20 or something on the actual
Didn't matter at
bonus
that point.
itself. But yeah, so that was terrific. And Chris, I didn't even tell you later that night, played a tiny bit more after my crap session after that. And I hit the Hannah bonus on the same machine,
Oh, wow.
which was
So
like
that machine
$500.
I would keep going back to that one. That obviously, it must be towards the front of the casino, Josh, because the slots that are more visible pay more than the ones that are hidden in the back.
Pay more. And there's some secrets that I learned from the class that I took that I can't tell you.
Oh, Professor Slots? Yeah.
I'm not saying.
Okay, we'll start our own course soon. So you people just hang in there. There'll be our slot course coming up.
But anyway, just to kind of be truthful with everybody, my slot win at the end of this trip was about $300 or something like that.
It all nets out to zero at the end of the day, anyways.
So even though I got 2 hand pays, I played a fair bit of slots over the trip. But Chris, I had a question for you. I wanted to ask you,
Okay.
circling back to craps. And
Okay.
you and I haven't had this conversation before. Mark and Dr. Mike have had this conversation. I know how they feel about it, but I had a couple ethical issues come up at the craps table, and I'm curious to hear your.
Oh, you know me.
your
I'm
take
just
on
super
it.
Mr. Ethics over here.
And they're both little tiny things. And first of all, if you've listened to the show or you kind of know me at all, I'm not particularly, I don't know how you say it, numbers. My head doesn't really go to remembering numbers all that well sometimes. And what I mean by that is why I'm always asking Chris, am I playing, if we're at a crapless table, am I paying 370 across? What's my bet here? Or, that kind of thing.
Okay.
I don't tend to remember those things as quickly. So
Okay.
I'll try to get to this. So I'm playing at a craps table and I got $50 on the line. I always play a 5, 10, 5, 1, 1, 1 for the features. So I have $23 in action on the features. So if a 7 comes, that's going to reset and I'm going to get my $50 less 23.
Yeah,
so I'm
you're
getting
going to get
$27. Right.
Yes.
So I'm playing with a dealer and all of a sudden that happens and he gives me 37.
Okay. I mean, math mistakes do happen, especially in a $10 increment. I could see that.
And it happened again, and he gave me 37. And it happened again, and he gave me 37.
Okay.
And I played this with the same crew the next day, and every time it happened, he'd give me 37.
Interesting.
And
I don't know how you make that mistake. Maybe the only thing I can think of, well, no, that wouldn't even make sense.
Yeah, I don't know where the extra
I have no explanation for how you could
But
get to that.
the ethical question is, what do you do? Do you say anything, or do you just take it?
No, I never say anything at all. It's their job to give me the correct change. I mean, literally. And if they really wanted to, they could just pay the pass line the $50 and then have you throw in
Which
the
happens
$23
sometimes,
again.
Some dealers,
some places will do that just to make it easier on themselves.
Right.
But if he's going to, save that step and just send you the change, that's on him to get it right. Now, that being said, and you've played with me enough, if I get overpaid even by a nickel or a dollar, or they give me the wrong VIG change, I typically throw it back to them and say, hey, too much or whatever. I usually throw it back because at the end of the day, dealers can get in trouble for mispays.
Right.
And, they can get points for that sort of thing. And so many points can lead to, termination. And if they can self-fix it, without somebody else catching it won't be written up. So just being the really dealer supportive guy I am, if it's dealers I like at Wynn, if they give me the wrong amount, then I'm going to fix it for them.
I'm with you.
But that being said, if I'm playing at a different property that I really don't have much of affinity for, then no, I'm not fixing that. I'm going to take what they give me. But if I remember correctly from what you told me, Josh, it got worse than that, didn't it?
Well, yes. And so, first of all, I admit I took the extra $40 or so for the 4 times or 5 times this happened, and
they're
going to
get it back anyways.
And part of me was like, am I? And this is where I talked about my math thing. I was like, am I missing something here? Is this right? And maybe I'm supposed to be getting back 37. So
is there not a bet that I thought was out there? Yeah, what is going on?
Like, what's going on? Right. So what the other thing that happened, not the same dealer, different dealer, was I said, 7 comes on the same thing happens. I've got my $50 line bet out and my 23 action, and 7 comes, and I said 27 back.
Okay, so you even tried to verbally fix it by putting the correct number into their head.
Right.
Okay.
And the dealer, not the same dealer, different dealer, pays me the 50 on the line and gives me $27.
Okay, so all I'm taking away from this is I need to play features really heavy at Aria because there's a good chance that I'm going to get overpaid.
And I'm like, I looked at it for a second again. And I'm like, I don't think this is right.
Why didn't you ask for more?
Well,
you said 27. What happens if you ask for 100? Does he just give it to you? Oh my God.
That was I just was curious as to ethically, kind of where you.
No, it's their job. They need to pay you the correct amount. Now, I'm sure as hell not somebody that's going to point out and be like, "Hey, you overpaid him," or "He lost that hand." And
right,
I'm not doing any of that stuff.
Oh no,
that's not going to happen. I'll fix errors that are towards me. I've never been tested with like super large numbers and errors. Like it's usually only like $1 or a nickel or something like that. I mean, if it was a black chip they paid an error, I don't know how I would treat that. Mostly because
I've never had that.
When errors get made that large, typically the camera's going to catch it and correct it in the future anyways.
Right.
But if it's a nickel here, $1 there, I don't think anybody cares. It's not worth the effort to try to fix.
Right. The other funny thing about the guy that was paying me the 37 instead of 27 is he kept saying it too. He would say 37 back to you. And I was surprised none of the other dealers picked up on that either.
Somebody should have been like, yeah, at that point, I mean, you got 4 employees that are overseeing this. Somebody needs to notice something, Well,
especially because half the time I will just say 27 back to me, so that they don't give me
$37.
Right.
Yeah, 27, 37. Gotcha. Okay, here we go.
Yeah. Anyway,
it's a $10 Aria bonus.
The other thing I wanted to tell you, and for those people that don't like Crapless, put on your earmuff for a second here, Jordan. I know that's you. I did play Crapless one night. It was the last night there. I went on a little bit of tilt and played Crapless at a $50 Crapless table because I wanted to play by myself and the other tables were full. And I wanted to play by myself. So I decided, okay, I'm going to play at a $50 Crapless table. And, it wasn't like Wynn where we've had that and they've lowered it to a quarter for us kind of thing that, I didn't ask and I didn't get the feeling they would do that for me at Aria. So I played at a $50 table. The first thing I thought is I'm going to do, you have to help me with the numbers again, Chris.
470 across?
Well, 470 would be regular, but I did 370 because I didn't do a 5 and 9.
Okay.
I decided I was going to play no 5 and no 9.
I feel like that's a shot at me since those are my favorite place bets.
That's
and
why
you just took them out.
Story.
God damn it.
But what happens in my first 7 rolls? Not kidding. All 5s and 9s.
That's right. That's
7
rolls.
karma
smacking you in the ass for that one. I mean, you should have known those are the best bets you can take.
Pressed up to 200 or whatever.
Oh my God! Yeah, you deserve that.
I'm not kidding.
I'm not supporting you on this one.
We counted those rolls, so the crew and I were all laughing about that. Then I just gave up and said 470 across, and
I honestly hope it was like 10 5 and 9s in a row and then an immediate 7. I don't want any of your bets to get paid if you're skipping over the 5 and 9.
Never again will I skip over the 5 and 9.
Okay,
but I did think that was funny, and boy, 470 across. Goes quick either direction on a Crapless table.
Oh, it does. Yeah, you can either make a killing or you get killed. There's no in between. And we'll talk about this in a question that's coming up in just a minute from one of the listeners. But that's where Bankroll plays into it so much.
Absolutely,
because if you're playing $600 or $700, every roll, I mean, you better have at least $6 to $9 grand available to make that work, or you're just going to get killed very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 other little quick things I wanted to mention. One, I changed my pressing strategy on the 4. I think I sent Chris a text about this. Changed my pressing strategy on the 4 and 10 a little bit. Okay. So now I'll go 50, 100, 200, 400. And instead of 8, which I think is what Chris does, he doubles there. Yes. I'm going to 6 and then 6 to 12.
I think that's fine.
Yeah.
It's like adding a little collection into the middle there. Yeah.
Right. I didn't have the option this trip of going to 12. I didn't hit one for 6, but But that would be where, in my
But
head,
in your
I would go
mind, you
next.
were ready if you got there.
I was ready. The other thing I wanted to say. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you're
well,
fine.
I was going to say the other thing. Going back to our line of credit conversation from last episode and the beginning of this episode, something happened this trip that I didn't really know was something I could do, and I thought might be worth passing along.
Okay.
I went to go pay some markers off at the cage, and I had an amount of cash that was in between markers. Mm-hmm. So the person at the cage said, what we can do is we can just we can pay off your existing markers and then issue you a new marker for that middle amount. So, correct. Yeah, so that was just something I didn't know before. Is I let's say I had markers for, I was going to make up numbers. I had 3 markers for $1,000 each, but I had 2,500. They just essentially tore up the marker, that last marker for 1,000, and gave me a new marker for 2,500, which I paid off, leaving 500, that kind of thing.
Okay, I've done that before, and then you always have that option we talked about last time. You could always just put that cash on deposit, and
right.
Then combine it later down the road to pay off another marker if you really want to. But yeah, no, that's a good tip for everybody out there. The only other questions I had, Josh, about your trip, one, what did you think employee-wise compared to Wynn? How did they compare? I mean, were the dealers as good, not as good? Like all the staff around, was it the same level?
I think it was pretty close to the same level. I mean, I think those examples about the little mispays, I don't think you see that as much at Wynn.
Very rarely.
Yeah, so that's the only thing I would say that kind of catches my eye as far as the level of employee. But I found the craps crews to be very quick for the most part. Mm-hmm. There was one slow table, now that I think of it. There was one table that I actually left the table because I didn't like the pace of it.
I've had that. But
for the most part, I thought the craps tables were, the crews were very professional, very friendly, great box people that I interacted with. I mean, almost every person in the box was nice and friendly and that kind of thing. Some really great rating experiences, I think. Okay. Of course, I don't know for sure what I'm being rated, but there was one boxman that I remember in particular that was looking up at my bets, every 5 minutes and entering them into the computer, which is great if you're a press player like we are, because then I feel pretty confident that my pressing is being accurately entered in the system. And
if you're who knows what player, you're getting killed. Yeah,
right. Who knows what he's actually doing in there? This could all be, just a figment of my imagination. And there,
he's putting a dinner order into the system for later.
Exactly. But I felt like, in all of that, I felt like I was being pretty accurately rated. So no, I have nothing but good things to say about, all the, I ran into the housekeepers a couple times, as I said, going to and from my room twice, and they each thanked me for the tip.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So the when I got my hand pays, very nice people. It was all they. In fact, the one asked me if I wanted a strap for the one, the one payout that I got.
Oh, cool.
Or yeah, no, so sorry, helpful. That wasn't that was at the cage, I think, after my big craps win.
In general, though, it sounds.
But anyway,
sounds very positive.
Great people.
The only thing else that I had for Aria, tier credit earning rates. I think this is worth mentioning because I found this very interesting. So from what you told me in your couple days that you were there, you were able to get past the halfway point to platinum.
Yep. I started at 0 because I hadn't played an MGM property this year. I think I had a tiny bit from my MGM credit card, and I got 128,000 in, essentially 3 days of,
and they weren't even 3 full gambling days,
right,
which is interesting.
I was going back and forth between the convention and and Aria. So it was 128,000. So I'm pretty impressed with that, so more than, whatever that is, almost 2/3 of the way to platinum.
Yeah. I mean, I was joking with you the other day that I think for this year, I have no, credits earned with MGM because we haven't gone there this year.
Right.
I do have platinum status currently from last year, but I really feel like then that we could probably knock out platinum status in a weekend.
I think so
if
too.
It was pure gambling.
Right.
So that's interesting to be able to hit the second highest tier with a property in a weekend. That's very, that's very low comparatively. There's no way you could ever do that at Wynn.
No.
I mean,
actually you could, because
you could hit their second tier, but that's only 10,000 points.
Right. 7.
But I just thought that was kind of interesting for people. If you're looking to get status, it sounds like MGM is a good place to get status very quickly if you want to.
Right. And I think it's gold that you don't have to pay resort fees at MGM now. So it's, gold is definitely achievable, I think, for a lot of our listeners. And that has some measurable benefits.
Nice. Okay, so we're already running fairly long. We haven't gotten to anything I wanted to. So, but I
didn't
want
want
to
this?
I want to talk about the con, the
I'll be
Nerd
quick.
Fest, but we can allocate like 3 minutes to it. Okay. So we have to go quick here. Josh, what were your highlights of going to this con?
Oh, I enjoy it every year because I'm a Star Trek fan, but it's a great chance for me to catch up with the same group of people that we eat dinner together, and so it's mostly just catching up with people and then seeing the old Star Trek celebrities and that kind of thing. But it's mostly the people that I'm there to see, and it was fun. We had dinners at let's see, we had Mott 32 at Venetian, which is an Asian place. Chinese type place, which I thought was kind of average-ish. It didn't blow me out of the water. We had, how do you say it? What's the deep dish pizza place at Bally's, Chris?
Out in the promenade front of
Gerardo's? Is that what it is? I think it might be
Giordano's.
Giordano's, that's probably it.
I don't know. The one that's in the little promenade out in front of Bally's that used to be next to the chicken place that I like so much, and then they closed the chicken place.
They closed your chicken place.
That's all I remember about it.
So we ate there, and I enjoyed that pizza a lot. That was a good deep dish pizza. And then we ate at Batista's, which Chris, you said you had been right. The Hole in the Wall Italian restaurant right across the street from Bally's. Yep. And funny story. So if you've never been to Batista's, I encourage anybody to actually give it a try because, first of all, the prices are really reasonable. It's right across the street, walking distance from Bally's or that corner of the strip. And this place is like an assembly line, though. They get you in, get you seated, get your food, and get you out. There's there's no waiting. The menu is on the wall. There's like 20, there might be 20 items or so, but they're grouped in. Most of your meals cost the exact same thing. Every meal comes with salad or soup, garlic bread for the table, and house wine. That's all included in your meal.
House wine. That's a scary couple words there.
Two of the group ordered the salad, the house salad, and I ordered soup, and one other person ordered soup. The waiter goes into this little hutch thing that's right next to the table and pulls out the salads, all ready to go.
They're here. Let's go. Come on, guys, eat.
And I was just dying laughing. I was like, "What if you want to customize your salad?"
No. We don't honor that.
That is not allowed.
That's too funny.
But anyway, so the convention was fun, mostly just to see the people and that kind of thing. I won't go into too much of the Star Trek, but that was a lot of fun. The only Go ahead.
I was going to say, did you get to meet any celebrities? No, stop talking over me. Did you get to meet any celebrities or play craps with anybody?
I got to meet a few celebrities, and I know I won't give names away right now, but I know from past Star Trek conventions there are at least two Star Trek related celebrities that are craps players, and I've played craps with them before. I gave two dice to each of the two craps playing celebrities, two of our CrapVegas dice, nice. Which I was super excited to do. And the one said that he would like to be a guest on our show sometime. So I'm going to see if I can set that up. He's actually met me offline in Vegas, and we've shot dice together and that kind of thing. He lives in Vegas.
You are really, really testing me with this, aren't you? You want to bring?
You're not going to have any clue who it is.
I was going to say I might take that week off. Jordan or Michael Traeger or somebody. If you want to come co-host with Josh that week. I don't think I could be there because I don't hold back on people. So I'm sure I'd make some comments I shouldn't make. But that's okay. It sounds like you got to meet a couple people, and that was a lot of fun. Yeah. The only other question I had before we get out of this horrible topic, what was your favorite cosplay outfit that you wore for the trip?
Well, I didn't wear any.
Sure you didn't.
I'm not a cosplayer. That the picture that Chris sent was not me.
That was 100% you.
No, I didn't go. I'm not a cosplayer. I just did Star Trek t-shirts and that kind of thing. Chris has a cat behind his head right now.
Always. Yeah. Usually about the 50-minute mark in the podcast. That's where they come in.
I did one thing I would have mentioned on the food. I forgot to mention. I did have vending machine cake for the first time in my life.
Ooh, those are always good. That and cupcakes. Both can be good out of a vending machine, turns out.
This is what's his name? The cake boss, Buddy somebody or other. Is that his name?
Buddy Valestro. Yep.
Yes, that one. So they have cake Buddy's cake vending machines at Bally's and I think at Paris. And I got a piece of that and took it back to Aria. I got out of my Uber at Aria, and there's a valet that opens the door, and I said, "I have cake."
Oh, anyway. Lord. So that's awesome. Okay, yeah. So let's wrap up your trip. That took much longer than we wanted it to, but we knew that going in.
Sorry.
So for my trip, I don't really want to talk about too terribly much because we got other things to get to. But there are a couple things I do want to point out from my trip to Wynn last week. The first one had a great roll Saturday morning. It wasn't over top or anything really worth discussing. The only thing worth mentioning is that listener Jerry happened to come up right in the middle of the roll. Josh, he came bearing gifts for me. He brought me a T-shirt, a Lucky Horseshoe, and he even politely stood to the side as I was throwing because he didn't want to interrupt anything. And I just killed it that roll. It was by far the best roll I had all weekend. It made me enough money so that I could get killed the rest of the day Saturday and still come away a winner. So it was really great meeting Jerry, and I really appreciate the gifts that he brought with me that I'm not sharing with you.
Yeah, I got Jordan, and Jordan didn't bring me anything.
Well, I mean, Jordan's not as cool as Jerry, so that seems pretty clear.
So Jerry, you and I will have to meet up next time because I'll be expecting gifts since Jordan fell through.
I don't think so. I think he's done now. That's it for gifts.
No, that's cool though. That's really cool, and I'm glad you got to meet Jerry, and that's really nice of you. Thank you.
This one I want to slow down on. I had a rude player at a Crapless table, Josh, and it made me think: has this ever happened to you or anything like this before? So there was, I was getting killed on the normal tables. It was that crew that we love at the Crapless table that's always there.
Swan
it's Christy and Swan and Jeff. You know, that whole crew that's all. It's like they're permanently assigned to Crapless. I don't understand why, but
I think they are. Yeah.
So I walked over there, and the box was Chris, who I absolutely love. He's probably the best box that Wynn has in my opinion.
He's great.
So I walked over there, and there was one other guy at the table, and I walked to the opposite. He was straight out on one side. I walked to the other end and was straight out on the other side, talking down there with Swan and just, saying hi. And she's asking how everybody's doing, how you're doing, how are the kids, that whole thing. Well, this guy's rolling. I have no action in play. He sevens out. I get my marker, and I put my pass line out there, and he rolls again, because I didn't have action the previous roll, which is fine. No big deal. I don't care who's throwing. It doesn't go very well. And then the next roll, though, it comes down to me. The action comes to me. Right. And at the same time, I'm having a conversation with Swan, like I'm always doing. I'm talking to the dealers. It's not affecting me putting my $50 out on the pass line. It's out there waiting. They send me the dice, and I go to grab my 2 dice, and I'm still talking to her as I'm doing it. And the guy at the other end of the table, yells out at me, well loud enough for anybody to hear it. He's like, are you going to shut up and throw the dice, or do I just need to leave?
Wow.
And I was like, wow. You don't see that at tables too often, players being that adversarial against each other.
You're sure this was for Boston Harbor?
And yeah, I know, it felt like it. And you know me, I'm not very, I'm not going to get in an argument with a guy.
Right, right.
I don't like conflict very much. But at the same time, I had to kind of, I kind of just at normal tone said dude, it's not affecting me putting my pass line bet out there. I can throw and do 2 things at once.
Right.
And he's like, well, you need to focus or you need to leave. And I mean, it went on for a little while, and the guy ended up coloring up and going. And I actually had a terrific roll, by the way, that time. I killed it. I hit all the extreme. He pulled his bets down after this argument started. And I hit 2s and 12s, and he was betting $100, $200 on these things to start. So it cost him thousands not keeping his bets up, which made me even happier that it happened. But it made me think, have you ever had an experience like that with a player before where they were actively rude to you?
No, I can't think of any experience that I've had that's even close to that. I remember the only thing I can think of, and this isn't really a great comparison, is I was at Venetian, I think, one time. And there was a guy playing from the don't. And he's like, you all need to be playing from the don't. This is the way to go. And then, we had all our bets out there, and sure enough, 7'd out at some point. He's like, see, I told you, 7's always going to come on this table. And, it's like,
well, I mean, at least he's trying to make you money. He's trying to give you what he considers, he's trying to give you advice that will make you more money. So he's actually trying to help you.
Sure.
This guy clearly was not trying to help me.
No, it's those situations. I don't think I've had many of them, but if there's I'm not a big believer in the vibe of a table making a difference, but if I'm not enjoying the vibe of a table, I'm going to switch. And hopefully, in this case, I'm glad he left for you, because I'm sure that's exactly what I told them. Right. Yeah, when Swan, you to get back in, right? I think Swan and Chris both started apologizing to me, prophetically. This never happens. I'm so sorry. Don't worry about it. He's just an asshole. Don't worry about him. And I told her, I said, it's no big deal. I said, if it would have continued, I just would have colored up and gone to one of the other 7 tables open. Right.
I just don't want to deal with that. It's not worth being harassed at a table over something as stupid as having a conversation with somebody.
Right.
But
Well,
it was just an interesting experience, to say the least.
Yeah, for sure. Going back to Aria, I mentioned one, but I left at least 2 tables at Aria because I just wanted a different vibe at the table. Either it wasn't going fast enough or the players were somehow rubbing me the wrong way. Most of the time it's because I'm losing and just cranky or whatever. But
yeah, it's good to try something different. It can't hurt.
Yeah, but no, I'm glad I haven't had anybody do that. That would have just, for me, I mean, it's good you went on a good roll. That can make it all better. But, if it had been
it made
bad,
everything better.
It just would have made it grumpier, yeah.
No, yeah, it was just interesting. Other than that, the only couple things I wanted to mention, one, across the Vegas market, you can tell that, labor is an issue. There's not enough employees in a lot of places, and you hear about it every day, with Caesar's Palace having 2-hour check-in lines, even at a place like that. This was the first time I kind of felt it at Wynn a little bit, on the room service side specifically. I'd go to place an order, I'd call them, and usually within a minute, maybe 90 seconds, somebody will pick up and, very polite and take your order, and we'll have it down there. And I completely understand if they say like, whoa, we're slammed right now. It's going to be an hour. It's going to be an hour.
Yeah, I've had it even longer than an hour.
Oh, I have too. Before. And I'm fine. And they usually tell you that, and they'll even give you a hint where, hey, if you want to place your order now for later, we'll make sure it's delivered at that time, which is actually very helpful. And I've done that before. But literally the phone just rang and I sat on hold. And sometimes it was over 20 minutes. Yeah, it was very disappointing. I didn't get my steak nachos that I wanted.
I know. That's really a bummer. Tell me, though, this was your first time Wynn Black. Any differences?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, the room itself, I mean, it's effectively the same room. There's really not that much of a difference. The table's different. It had two chairs with a little kind of coffee table in between, as opposed to, like a more round table there. That has the 4-post bed instead of the normal bed.
Air
For the
freshener?
most part, yeah, I mean, it does have the spray air freshener that you get to take with you if you want to. That is a big plus, and that is what my house smells like right now. So that was a pleasant change. I wasn't skipping lines anywhere, like trying to go to the buffet and skip ahead of people. Right. So that sort of thing didn't, really affect me. The only thing I did like is in the past, I always felt like I was kind of bugging my host to get things like transportation set up, because that wasn't truly tied to the status that I had earned. Right. Even though he was always going to provide it. At least now I kind of felt like I wasn't pushing any boundaries or asking for something that I didn't deserve. So that was kind of nice. But other than that, no, I didn't really notice any big difference on this trip.
That was actually a struggle I had. I had to remember how to take Uber.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't know what to do if they weren't picking me up at the airport.
I bet we've gotten a little spoiled with Wynn. I mean, you know that if you're listening. But it was seriously, it was like, oh, wow, I have to take Uber from the airport to the hotel. How do I do that?
It's a different experience for everyone. I agree. Okay,
but I had some great Uber rides.
Well, good. Let's jump into listener questions, because we have way too many that we're not going to get to, but let's try to fly through them as quickly as we can. So we had a message on our forums from Troller Boy, which I hope he's not trolling us, because it didn't seem like a negative question. But at the same time, he said, hey guys, when I play craps, I generally always have my place bets and come bet odds working on the come out. I figured that I'm only at the casino for a short time, and I'm there to expose my money to risk. Yes, any time that your bets are turned off is better for you, since this is a negative EV game, but heck, I could have stayed home and watched reruns of The Scarecrow and Miss King and avoided negative EV altogether. But I didn't. I chose to come and put my money on the felt. So he was effectively asking, what are our thoughts on turning off bets versus turning them on a come out roll? And I know we're the same player, Josh, but you can go ahead and answer this one.
Well, so I'll start kind of way back when I used to be a come player and 3-point Molly most of the time. I oftentimes had my come bets working on the come out.
Okay.
With the theory being that it's no different than any other roll. That's true. Might as well do it. Since switching to being a place better, and there's, you could have your place bets on too. I don't do that. And primarily, I guess I'm cognizant of a couple things. I'm thinking about it's a negative EV game, and, it's in my best interest to not have those bets working, especially if I'm going to be rated while those bets are not working. So that's what I'm thinking about is, truthfully, there's no difference between the come out roll and any other roll. So why not have them working? But since it's a negative EV game, I'm gonna lose in the long run anyway, so I might as well not have those bets working when I can. And I'm still going to be rated at whatever my average bet is, even on those, on the come out roll when those bets are off. So I might as well try and get the best of that world too. So that's the reason I don't work
Yeah, I mean, it's the same as hardway bets or anything else. I mean, you turn them off on the come out because, it's just less exposure to the game.
Right.
The only other thing that I would say, and I think I mentioned this in my response to him on the forums, is that technically by keeping them working, if you are a pass line player, you're working against yourself. Because the pass line theoretically will win on a 7, and a
That's
7
true.
will wipe off all the bets that you have. So I don't like to have counter bets. It's almost like
Right.
you're kind of hedging. Not
Right.
intentionally, but you kind of are. So I don't like to have bets that work against each other at the exact same time. Now, granted, you could also say, then why do you take, craps, any craps on a come out or a 3-way crap?
Well, you're
Because
just
your
dumb
pass line
when you
has to
do
lose
that.
that. I mean, there's a lot of things. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that you can say that about. But
Sure.
in theory, I don't want to have bets that are working against each other that really provide no protection. So I turn them off. But no, there's nothing wrong with leaving bets on. And every time we play, I always see 1 or 2 people that
Mhm.
leave their place bets on or leave their come bet odds on, or somebody's always got bets working at all times.
And you're right. I mean, Troller Boy is right in that, we are there to gamble and we're there to have fun and we're there to
Let's
play
call
the
him TB.
action.
TB Josh.
You don't like Troller Boy? Keeps making me think of Avril Lavigne and Skater Boy.
It's Levine.
Oh, sorry.
Come on,
cut
now.
that out.
That's my age. You old men talking
let's
about these
talk
kids
Sinatra.
now. Damn
That's
boomers.
right.
Yeah. Okay.
Is it Adam Levine?
No. No. Oh God. Come on.
Is there
Next question.
Adam Levine?
Next, there's no Levines that I know of. Next question. Win black card. Oh God, it's TB again. So he's really trolling us this week. He said, "All right, you black card carrying podcasters, what do you think, based on your recent experience, is A, the most expedient way to earn Win Black, and B, the least expensive way to earn black?" Good question. The easy answer is do not go to Encore Boston Harbor.
Well, yeah.
That would be a nightmare if you were trying to earn black. I mean, I don't know with any of these things. I mean, there's an expected loss associated with anything.
Right.
Table games are always going to have a lot more on the variance side, depending on what game you're playing, versus sitting down at a slot machine where it's a little bit more predictable. You know
Right.
exactly how many dollars you have to put through to earn those points. And in a table game, a bad rating can screw you, and you have no control over that at all. And it
Or
doesn't
the
matter if you win or
variance going
lose.
against you, right?
Yeah, I mean, you could have a horrible run and lose a ton of money and get no points. So I would always say that it's much easier for a slot player to earn status than it ever is a table games player. And I guess theoretically, finding a really good paying video poker game would probably be the best way to do it with the lowest variance. But I would also find that horribly boring. So that's
Right.
not something I could ever do.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a really good answer to your question, TB. I think,
Thank you.
I mean,
Yeah.
the most expedient is going to be slots, I think.
Yeah. High limit slots. They
Right,
typically
high
have
limit
lower
slots.
variance and higher payback.
Now, I like to think that, and I don't know this to be true, but I like to think that the way we play and the way we interact with the dealers and box people and that kind of thing gets us rated maybe a little higher than than our actual bets. And if you can, as we've talked about before, if there's any way you can goose your rating a little bit, that's only going to help in trying to get to whatever status. But yeah, I think, being cognizant of the odds of the games you're playing and if you're, and what's rated and what's not, on a craps table, come odds are not going to be rated versus place bets that are, and, just so trying to think about that. But there's really I don't think there's a quick way to do it.
No, I mean, even the way we play, best case, we're probably earning around 1,000 tier credits an hour.
Right.
That's pretty normal. I mean, that's still 70 hours of play.
Right.
That's not exactly quick. And that's also putting a lot of money on the line to do so.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more than a slot player would ever put on the line end of the day. So, I mean, I would tell you, stick to slots, find the highest return game. You stay away from the penny slots, find an old school reel machine. The higher the denomination you can go, the better.
Right.
But if you really want to probably be the safest, find a very high payback video poker machine. That would probably be the best way to do it, although it's going to take a while.
Yep.
Final question from the message boards that I pulled off, Josh, because we had to skip over a few for now, just time-wise. Bankroll management. Go Green 22 on the forums asked us, "Hey guys, how do you feel about a topic on bankroll management?" Okay, well, we'll address it. I just got back from a 4-day trip to Vegas. I had a $500 per day, $2,000 for the trip. budget, and he got completely wiped out. He went out of his way to find a $10 or $15 table everywhere he played. He'd bet 15 on the line, 1 times odds, and $18 on a 6 or 8. And he asked, was I over betting my bankroll? It didn't help that the tables were absolutely ice cold. Thanks for the message, Go Green 22. So with your play, with 1 times odds, pass line of 15, and then a 6 and 8, so you got 36 on the place bets, and you got 30. So you're playing 66 bucks in play at $500 a day. And I would say, unfortunately, with that kind of play level and the variance associated with craps, I'm not surprised at all that you got wiped out.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I recognize that's a lot of money.
It is, yeah.
But yeah, as I kind of mentioned one time, I like to have a per session bankroll of at least 10 times my average bet. So if you're at 66, you're over 500, and that's just per day. You should be at between 6 and 7. If you're thinking that. And you're saying 500 a day. So I think 66 is too high to do what you want to do, to be able to play for a whole day. You can scale that back. My thought would be you could still do, your line bet, you could still do a 1 times odds, and then maybe just the 6 or the 8, or you don't do odds and you play either the 6 or the 8, kind of cut that in half. 1 times odds, honestly, in your overall house edge difference is not going to make that much difference in that level of play. So
it's just going to increase the variance.
Yeah, it's just going to increase the variance. It's not going to do much overall. So if your goal is to last longer, just have fun playing, I would say maybe don't do that. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think almost I'd probably just stay off the pass line, honestly, unless I was shooting. Just to stay away.
That's
from
a good idea.
That large dollar. If you're only going to take 1 time odds, I'd probably just stay off the pass line. Maybe just place the 6 and 8 for 18 apiece.
Yeah,
and then expand as you go and see what happens. And if you're shooting, hop on the pass line so you can throw the dice.
And
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Chris. The nice thing I was going to say about the 6 and 8, and I've been thinking about this recently. If depending on what your goals are and your tolerance for variance, playing the 6-8 is a great way to, let's say 6-8 versus buying the 4 and 10. You can get the odds to be relatively equivalent, but placing the 6 and 8 are going to hit more often. So if you're playing with a limited bankroll, think about that too. Think about what numbers are going to hit more often. Obviously you want to get the odds similar, that kind of thing. But if you have a come bet, a pass line bet, and it ends up at the points of 4 or a 10, and you have a choice of that or playing the 6 or 8 on a place bet, I'd play the 6 or 8 if your bankroll is limited, because you're going to get paid more frequently. So your bankroll should last longer over time.
And you could also, if you did hit the 6 or 8 a couple times, you could always put your odds down as the roll's progressing.
Yep.
So it gives you the opportunity to maybe get those odds that you're looking for after the fact, once you've kind of broke even on the roll. So that's what I would do. But keep in mind, when Josh is talking about 10 times the average bet or so at a minimum for a session, that's for a session. That's not for a day.
Right, not for a day.
And when we play, we typically have 4 or 5 sessions at a minimum in a day.
Right.
So I understand that does change things, but craps is such a hard game to have a limited bankroll with, because there's just so much variance. You can easily go down. If you're playing $100, you could easily lose, $5,000 without really even trying that much.
Right.
And then you could turn around and win $7,000 on the next roll.
Right.
That's the hard part when it comes to craps. There's just so much more variance than most other games in the casino. At blackjack, if you have $5,000, you could play at a $300 table and probably hang in there for a good amount of time, because usually you don't have as extreme a variance. But at a craps table trying to play, $300 average bet on $5,000, it could last 10 minutes.
Right.
Just depending on what's going on. So it's a good question. I wish we could offer you some, better advice, but unfortunately, craps is a game you got to have a decent bankroll if you want to really give yourself a shot. If you don't mind losing it all pretty quickly and can hold off to the next day, I guess it's not as big of a deal, though.
Right. Right.
And I know, at least for us, I think Mark and Mike talked about this recently, but to play at fairly significant levels on a craps table, like if you're playing $100, $200 average bet or so, if you want to play for a whole weekend of multiple sessions, I would think at a bare minimum, you need 10, 15 grand.
Yeah, you might be able to sneak by with under that, but I think if you want to be able to make sure you can withstand the real, lows, then yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just something to think about as you're going through and trying to decide what, how you're going to play, what you're going to play. I mean, just try to figure out a strategy that works for you that still makes it fun, and just have an understanding that, variance can kick your butt and you may be knocked out pretty quick.
But yeah, if you can play the 6-8 and have fun with it, that's a great way to go.
Oh yeah, and I see players like that, and half the time those players kill it while I'm getting killed.
Yes,
because you hit the 6-8 quick, they get their money back, and here I am, I'm just getting killed right after that. So, okay, let's go on to the next question. We had a Twitter question from Zach. Zach asked what a call bet is. Josh, I know we wanted to have a bigger discussion some other time about craps lingo and the different terms that get thrown around at a table, but he did ask specifically about a call bet. So you want to explain what they are?
Well, so a call bet is, Chris, tell me if you agree with what a call bet is, but it's basically in craps, verbal bets can be binding if acknowledged by the dealers and if that's allowed at the property. So is that what you understand a call bet to be as well? So I'm going to say $6 hard 8 without actually having any chips in on the table or going out. Is that what you understand a call bet to be?
The only thing that I would say about call bets, and the reason that they're typically, placarded on the table as no call bets,
okay,
is usually a call bet requires that you don't have the money to actually service the bet visible.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay, that I didn't realize.
So if you
All
have
right.
chips in your rack, or you have a $100 bill laying there and you ask for $50 in action,
gotcha.
Then yes, they should verbally accept that. And I wouldn't consider that a call bet.
Okay,
that was just a verbal bet.
That's my experience in craps is always that verbal is binding in craps if acknowledged by the dealers and if they accept.
Yeah,
but
if they ask
different.
for something, they're going to expect that money on the back end.
And I love that about. Oh, sorry, I was
go
going to say slightly off topic, but I love that about craps. Is
too.
Because we're all superstitious and all that thing about chips on the table at various times and hands and all that kind of stuff. If you forget that you want to make a regular bet, and so you're late to the party, but if you can yell out, and I do it oftentimes with dealer bets, I'll forget that I want to make an $8 or $6 place bet for the dealer. So I'll say $6 8 for the dealers. And as long as, he'll acknowledge it, dealer will acknowledge it, oftentimes say it to the box while the dice are, about to be thrown. It all counts. But you're saying that's a little different because you actually...
I think that's different from at least the limited time that I ever looked into it. Usually that means that there's no cash in
money,
the rack,
right.
no chips, no money. So they're effectively extending you credit at that point to honor the bet. They're letting you take a shot potentially if you didn't have that cash. So I can understand why they wouldn't want to do that. That being said, if you're a credit player and they know who you are or you're a frequent guest, I see call bets all the time.
Yeah, now
there's
that you
no chips in the rack.
Way.
I mean, you see no chips in the rack, and they'll say, give me 270 across when the dice are sent out. They'll set it up and put a lammer to the side, indicating what's going on, and put chips there to count it out, and then they'll issue a marker 10 minutes later, and then it's all good. I mean, technically that's a call bet. Since there was no chips in the rack, there was no cash laying there. They had no idea if you had that money. So yeah, I think I made a comment on Twitter recently that every place that says no call bets on the felt, I've seen them, honor call bets.
Still do call bets.
And I still think that is the case. But at least it gives them the option to decline a bet if somebody's trying to bet something they don't have.
Now I'm gonna be tuned in to see if I'm gonna be looking for it now.
Okay, Josh. So even though there are tons of other things that we really need to talk about, this is running way too long. So let's jump ahead to the couple things people want to know and get them out of here. Last week, Dr. Mike and Mark announced...
He spilled the beans.
Yeah, I hadn't mentioned it, even though I was the one that reached out originally, so I knew about this a month ago. But they went ahead and jumped ahead, which is great, and let everybody know that Josh and I are actually going to visit Dr. Mike up in the Midwest for a craps weekend. And lo and behold, Mark is going to join us as well. So it's going to be a CrapVegas, you can bet on that, crossover episode, jump the shark, anything you want to call it. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be a fun weekend. I have got more questions about this than anything over the past week, and I have to keep telling people the exact same thing. I'm not planning it. Dr. Mike is. He's picking the casino, where we're going, what we're doing, and I have no clue what the answer to where we're going to be is because he hasn't told us. And I think he said that it was going to be sometime in October that he was going to get the details figured out. So just keep an eye out. You'll see a tweet. You'll see us talk about it on a future episode. But yes, we are going to do it. It's going to be November 11th through the 13th. I can't wait. It will be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's going to be super cool.
So we are very excited about doing it, but we have zero details.
The best part, though, Chris, was when, I can't remember if it was Eric or whoever it was, or maybe it was Zach on Twitter, that heard You Can Bet on That, heard Dr. Mike talk about it with Mark, and then asked you about it. Somebody sent Chris a DM, and Chris was like, he's like, yeah, he sent me a message, and he was like, that's so exciting to hear, or something like that. And I was like, what are you talking about? And Chris even messaged me. Chris texted me, and like, with just question marks, like, what's he talking about?
What is he talking about? Well, see, it was the day after You Can Bet on That had their episode out.
Right.
And I had my kids in the car on the commute to home and from work each day. So I didn't get to listen until 2 days later. So I hadn't heard what they had actually said. Yeah. And so all of a sudden, a bunch of DMs started coming through. That's so exciting. I can't wait. Where are you going to be? Can we come? All these things started coming through. And I didn't know what anybody was talking about.
Anyway, we're very excited about it. I mean, let alone playing with Mark and Dr. Mike, it'll be fun just to go try new places and venture around the Midwest and see what the casinos are like there and that kind of thing. So very excited. Yeah,
I cannot wait. I think it will be an amazing weekend for sure, win or lose. Other than that, if you haven't already, we would love to have your support by visiting our merch store. That's crapvegas.com/shop, or by clicking the donate button on our homepage. And I found out last week we had a promo of 11% off with promo code YO11.
Chris stole it.
That 2 weeks ago. And I started getting messages from people saying, you stole this from Tim at the Better Life. And Tim sent me a DM and he's like, yo, it sent me a screenshot. And I was like, dude, I didn't see it. It definitely was not attempted to be stolen. But just because of that, and because we are 1% better than Tim, even though I love Tim, you can save 12% now with promo code BOXCARS. So take that, Tim. Don't you be stealing our discount codes.
It's the discount code off.
Oh, hey, it's a win-win for the listeners. Eventually, It's going to be like, it's going to be like 66% off if you use, I don't know. We'll figure something out. Okay. Other than that, the only thing I was going to say is we do want to remind everyone, please subscribe, like, and review our podcast on your favorite podcasting app or on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/CrapVegas. And like Josh mentioned earlier, I think I am going to have to start working on putting out a video of your Aria room that you took while you were there. I did notice, by the way, that you didn't capture the bedroom at all.
Yeah,
so I don't know if there was.
It's in there.
I didn't notice it. I thought maybe there was a dead body in there or something you didn't want people seeing. I was like, why did he skip that? Either way, I'm going to continue on my video editing skills, and I will get that up on YouTube in the next couple days. And we do have an exciting announcement coming in the next few weeks towards the YouTube channel. I think everybody's going to be really excited about. Josh, anything else as we're trying to wrap up this ridiculously long episode?
Oh, it's good. The last thing I wanted to say is just related to the Aria trip. One more thing. I wore my shirt from CrapVegas that is the Hard 8 for a Nickel shirt. And it's my first time wearing it at a live table, and the dealers really got a kick out of it. And on the back, it gives, instructions on what to do when the Hard 8 hits. So I would turn around and show them. So I went the next day, and the dealers, there was, one new, three of the same dealers and one different one. And the one was telling the other, he's got a shirt that says what to do with it on the back when it hits.
He's got instructions.
And then we had a good roll, and I got my Hard 8 up to, I think it was maybe even 100 or so. And they were joking with me about, you need a new shirt, a new CrapVegas shirt for what to do when you get the Hard 8 up there. I was going to have 3 layers of shirts on. And
I'll tell you that these shirts really do start a lot of conversations.
They really do.
Because on my trip the week before, one day I wore the I'm risking divorce for this shirt, even though I am divorced. So one of the dealers that knows me pretty well, I can't remember who it was, Josh, but one of the guys goes, wait, I thought you were divorced. I said, yeah, I lost the risk. I said, it didn't pay off in this case, So he liked that. And then I did wear the Hard 8 shirt the next day, even though I typically don't play at Hard 8. But, I was trying to support you, trying to make you a couple extra bucks. Nope, no problem. And I did start getting a lot of questions from the dealers about that. They're like, is that a shirt that Josh made? Where did you have that printed? And I was like, no, I was like, we have this podcast, and most of them know that, but some of the dealers don't. I was like, no, we have this podcast, and this is Josh's plate. Well, I know that's his plate. What about the rest of it? And I said, oh, let me show you. So I did a nice little 180, and I said, yeah, see on the back, here's his whole press. Like, oh, that is it, isn't it? And I was like, yes. So they were very impressed with the quality and the detail of the shirt and the instructional use of it at the same time. So no, I didn't play your Hard 8 that way, but everybody got a kick out of it. So this is just another reminder to everybody to buy one of these shirts, wear it at the casino next time. I guarantee you will get some comments from people asking, hey, what's this about? And then you'll spread the word of Crap Vegas to even more people.
Absolutely.
Okay, guys, I think that's all we have. I'm going to have to do some editing to move this thing around and maybe make it a hair shorter than it actually was. But we do appreciate you all, and we will talk to you all soon.
Yep. Thank you.
Vegas, here we come.
Thanks for listening to the Crap Vegas podcast.
Have you ever been to Vegas?
Check out all our recent news and our Vegas trip calendar by visiting CrapVegas.com.
See you in Vegas.